Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 34 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Dratnos. Joining me, as always, is my friend Trell.
Hello, Dratnos.
Hello, and my friend Tettles.
What's up?
So this week we're gonna cover the Mythic raid coming up, Mythic Ny'alotha. We have all the Mythic mechanics that we know about for every fight, all the first 10 boss fights, and we'll leave the last 2 boss fights for another time. Those will, of course, be very interesting, but are a long way away for most people on progression. So we'll talk about the first 10, and then probably when we get back from Race to World First, Tettles and I, we'll talk about Carapace and Ny'alotha and how they actually shaped out once we saw what actually happened in those fights. So speaking of which, no show next week, and probably no show the week after either. And then we will return on probably Saturday the 15th of February. And our next show on YouTube and iTunes and stuff will probably be on Sunday the 16th. So that's our current plan for timing. Of course, there's subject to change.
That's all tentative based on like how quickly the raid goes, how long the raid goes. Maybe I just permanently am trapped in Dallas or something.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah, like Trell is.
Yeah, my co-hosts are coming to my town the very day that I leave for work, but I should see them when I come back from work next weekend, hopefully, unless the boss dies in like 2 days.
Is your guild allowing you to leave, Trell? I mean, aren't you on like a hardcore rating schedule now, like day rating?
No.
All I'm gonna say is Twitch Prime is rated just as many days as Imperative.
Oh man! All right, look, we only raid Tuesdays. We add an optional day on Wednesday if we want gear, which we had to do this week for corruption. And then we also decided to do normal because not all of us got good corrupted items, and normal is the best other place to get gear right now. So that turned into a rating every day.
Yes.
And then Friday you needed to finish up Ny'alotha and Carapace.
Just Ny'alotha, but yeah.
Yeah, so the
Optional.
old 1 mandatory, 3 optional schedule. Yeah, it's a classic.
Look, I don't want to be there either. We just
Welcome to NA.
Well, I mean, it does make sense though that like a guild that is built around gearing people up for Mythic Plus this time around has to go a lot harder than it used to have to get competitive items. Like in Eternal Palace, you kill the Folly boss and you kill the Coral boss eventually, and you basically have it all. But nowadays, it's almost every boss drops at least a high chance of high corrupted items, and the only way you can't Titanforge your good items anymore. You gotta get them from the more locked sources, the not farmable sources.
Funnily enough, I was more incentivized to do normal this tier than I've ever been this expansion because of corruption.
Yeah.
So I think corruption may be worse in that aspect than Titanforge.
Well, it's because a lot of the corrupted items prior to like Thursday didn't scale with item level at all. That has been hotfix changed to where some of them are really, really bad at low item levels, notably like Infinite Stars and Twisted Appendages and all that.
Yeah, and the Gushing
but not
Wind.
Echoing Void. Echoing Void and Twilight Devastation are still really good at 410, 415 item level, so I'm still trying to get those.
Yeah, those effects are still scaling off max health and not with item level. It's a little bit interesting. I think the item level change was probably good, although really one of the big effects that it's had is that people who are, who only get a couple of high item level drops per week now have a lot smaller chance of getting BIS corruption items than they did back when they could also get them from lower item level sources.
Can we talk about like what the fuck is wrong with like Mythic Plus? Because I feel like you get 0 corruption pieces from PvP and Mythic Plus, but you get like a lot from World Quests and you get even more from Raid. And I'm just like, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay, so first of all, it looks like they may have hotfixed some of the drop rates when they did the when they hotfixed on Thursday or whatever yesterday the Infinite Stars and stuff. It looks like there's a chance that those have that World Quest drop rates in particular of corruption have gone down.
I think so, yeah.
Those were certainly very high corruption rates for a while.
Have Mythic Plus drop rates gone up from
it doesn't look like
0 out of 10 runs to like
Mythic,
maybe 1 out of every 3 runs?
Mythic Plus end of dungeon
2 pieces last night, but it seemed lucky.
Yeah, the end of dungeon rewards from Mythic Plus seem very unlikely to corrupt, which is not. I understand their desires to not make it so that we have a huge incentive to farm a lot, but unfortunately, the effect is now that the amount of hours spent farming needed to get the gear has gone up rather than down, right? So
I mean, yeah, and the system sucks right now because you don't have like a library of corruption pieces that you can pick from. You just like take what you can get, and if it's not the best in slot one, you're just like, oh shit, I'm doing 10% less damage.
Yeah.
This is so stupid. But if you get the good one, then you're just like hard earned raid spot right there, dude. I this is why I think that all pieces should have like originally been corrupted, because like it just takes so long to be able to get to those pieces. And then it also like generates, you have like there's like item level disparities that you're actually picking from, as opposed to right now where you're only picking trait disparities. You're only picking for trade as opposed to there's no item level distinction going into it.
I mean, you will start making item level distinctions as soon as you have more corrupted pieces, right? It's just right now when your corruption budget is not well spent, you're just looking for any way to spend your corruption budget and get to like 38 corruption or whatever, 39.
Well, this is the most important point of the patch, right? Like the first like 3 or 4 weeks of the patch are by far the most important. And if you feel like the patch is just trash the first couple of weeks, you're just going to stop playing.
Yeah, I definitely agree that it's not a good feeling right now for if you don't have good corruption.
I'm like desperate. I'm doing every single blue item world quest. I've not gotten a single Echoing Void, Twilight Devastation, Gusting Wound, Infinite Star on any character. And my Prot Warrior, which has done like 24 bosses this week, 20 Mythic Plus keys, every world quest, every vision, every invasion, every emissary, has gotten none of those, and I've gotten 2 corrupted pieces that are good, and they're both avoidance. That's it.
Pog.
Yeah.
So 20% avoidance on my warrior.
I think what they could have done is they could have made like corrupt the tiers based on item level instead of just random. So like, okay, what if 410 to 430 was always a tier 1 corruption roll, and 435 to 455 was always a tier 2 corruption roll, and then 460 plus was always a tier 3 corruption roll? And that way you could, if you were doing heroic and high mythic plus, you only needed a couple of corruptions to fill up most of your corruption tier 3 budget, and then you could fill in with some pieces from lower.
Well, part of it too is that like the passive stat procs and like Gushing Wound and shit like that are only like 15 even at tier 3. Well, Gushing Wound
they just don't have a tier 3. Yeah.
Well,
and the stat procs do, but they're on a smaller, they're squished. Yeah,
exactly. And that would be how you have to fill up your budget. You would take like one high budget item. You'd take like Infinite Stars rank 3, Echoing Void rank 3, like one of the high budget ones, and then you would take one of the low budget ones, which is like Gushing Wounds or like whatever else, and then you would just equip those. That would make the most sense, like what you're saying. I think I agree with that.
Yeah, some way to just make it so that you're not there's just so many wheels of RNG that are you need to stop all 3 wheels on a good roll to really get a good outcome, right?
Yeah.
And that is
tough right now. I'll be fine in like a couple of weeks when I have options, like we said.
I think that even just a higher corruption drop rate would go a long way to fixing it too. The fact that corruption is just so rare is...
I think it's the exact same like rarity as Titanforge, which is like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I think it needed to be higher given how many extra moving parts there are now. All right, anyways, let's move on to our main topic and stuff. But first, let's thank our supporters over at patreon.com, keeping the show running. We really, really appreciate it, and we can't wait to be back to keep making shows for you after we come back from Race World First. Those supporters are Ahar of US Proudmore, Paul of US Proudmore, King of Skills, VTech XD, Rock, Zuko, Ja, Uncle Please Invite, Khalifa D. Pog, Drunk Swede from Legion of Lemmings Argent Dawn EU, Mrs. Tettles, Actually Tootsie, Heltari, Ishio, Blue of Emerald Dream, Chromed, Seraphicus, Trekkie, The Marsh Hare, Regulus, and Never Nude. Thanks for... Yeah.
I actually played Chromed in Tuesday the other day. Good game, Chromed.
Did you win?
I did win. I felt bad. It's my Patreon.
You should have thrown it. You should have thrown the game.
If you throw there though, that's RMT, and then you get banned. So it's good thing you won. Yeah. Yeah. If any of you would like to have your name read differently or whatever, or if you're on that list or you're not on that list and you should be, just ping us in Discord and we'll fix it. By the way, that's basically the best way to get in touch with us on Patreon related matters. So let's talk a little bit about before we get to our Mythic preview, let's just quickly talk about our experience with the Awakened Affix. Tettles, have you gotten to play any Awakened keys?
I did a 19, and we
Okay.
progressed through a freehold.
I was shocked that you guys did that on Tuesday, like with no gear yet or anything. I think I'm gonna time a 19 later today.
You're shocked? I mean, okay, so I don't know. We were just like, let's get this out of the way. I don't really want to deal with this for the rest of the week, and so I did a 19 on Tuesday. I don't know. I've been putting a lot more time into PvP than
It makes sense.
grinding Mythic Plus.
One
That's
high
fair,
key, and you're just done. But PvP, you've got a lot of work to get to your high rating.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and like if the corruption drop rate from Mythic Plus was higher, it would make sense to maybe spam some 6s. But
Yeah, I
You
definitely agree with that. If the corruption drop rate was higher, then I'd probably be more inclined to do 6s and just get like 1800 in PvP. But the corruption drop rate is the exact same for PvP and Mythic Plus, and it's bad. So I'm just like, all right, well.
also, can we just talk about how extra items don't start being awarded above level 6 this week? That's really lame. Like, you should at least
Oh
get.
yeah, I forgot about that.
Like, so you still only get the extra items at level 16 is when you start getting the 40% chance per level of an extra item. And item over reward isn't higher in a 16 than it is in a 6. So there's just like an awful dead zone where you're not getting any benefit for running keys. So like if you've already done your high weekly key, you have no incentive to go do another, like to help your friends with a 15. There's like so little loot from it. I think that they should really on this first week also increase the drop rate above 6s of items if that's going to be the ceiling of loot.
I'm not super hot on Mythic Plus this week too because everything feels like just a fucking drag, and I know that like 4 weeks from now I'm going to be literally doing twice as much damage as I currently am. So I just sit there, I'm like,
yeah.
Or I could just do one key and just not bother.
Definitely one key is the outcome of the current set of incentives, and the fact that it's also bolstering week, so you can't really like it's not really fun to just spam 6s on bolstering anyway.
Are Nerf and Fu going for rank 1 world?
No, they're just doing keys like I am. I mean, I think it's fun to make the new routes for the season and kind of set the meta in some way. That's my incentive to do.
I get that.
All right, let's move on to our tip of the week. My tip of the week is that they've changed the drop rate for coalescing visions upwards. So if you are doing daily, weekly, and bi-weekly stuff, if you're not missing out on daily lesser visions, if you're doing some daily quests, you're now getting extra horrific vision runs that you didn't get before. So instead of having not very much room for mistakes before you start pushing back your rank 15 cloak date, your rank 15 cloak date is now safe, assuming you're doing daily stuff. Even with some mistakes or fun runs in there, you will still be able to get rank 15 the week that it's available. What you're going to have to do is a couple weeks before rank 15 comes out, like on the rank 10 week or whatever, you're going to have to start stockpiling your runs. But until then, you can do some fun runs, or you can do some, runs for gear, run for corrupted mementos, runs to cover mistakes or DCs or whatever. Those are all allowed now. If you are not doing daily quests, and every daily lesser vision, you should probably continue to stockpile all your runs and not do anything beyond your cloak cap each week. There's not like you really can't go wrong by not running once your cloak is capped, but you do have some space now where if you want to have fun, if you want to help a friend, if you want to record a YouTube video, you can go and do an extra run and not be hurting your character anymore. Trell, what is your Oh, and a quick question from chat. How do you tell what the cap is each week? It just goes up by 1 each week. So this week, at the time of recording this, your cloak is capped to 7, and each week afterwards, it'll be increasing by 1. So you can tell because you won't get a quest from Rathian until the cap goes up. So if you don't have a quest from Rathian, you're not getting a cloak upgrade from your run.
But Dratnos, what if we use party sync?
Yeah, that was how the person got rank 7 on that first day, right? Was the party sync abuse?
Yes, and they got banned.
Yeah, A of all, if something like that works, you better make sure nobody finds out about it, or else you're getting reported and banned. And
what about the guy who's got all the 375?
Yeah, the
man, I saw that one.
All the mythic ass, right? Yeah.
All right. So let's think this through. Okay, so basically, what we're talking about is there was a screenshot going around of this guy of an armory link of this guy who had 3 475 pieces of Azurite. Okay, 1. Abusing the system to get 475 Azurite is bad and it's a good way to get banned. 2, who the fuck is dumb enough to actually equip that like right now? Just wait, like literally wait until the patch hits and then you equip it.
Yeah, I mean, you could I don't know what the thought process is. I don't know how somebody found the armory either. Like, he had to have told somebody, or somebody had to have inspected him or something. I don't know. Either way, don't do abuse, people. Don't, like, if you're gonna abuse something that is, there's just no way that you could have gotten that legitimately, right? How'd they do it?
Easy to get banned.
There were Mythic Plus. There were Mythic Plus
just
stuff.
don't do
So
that.
he was abusing Residuum somehow.
Yeah, there must have been some residuum bug that that person abused. Anyways, Trell, what is your tip of the week?
My tip of the week is do your blue item world quests. If you're like me and don't have a good corruption piece yet, it won't matter eventually, but right now, if you don't have like Twilight Devastation or Infinite Stars or Echoing Void, Gushing Wounds, you could potentially get a big upgrade from like a 415 belt from a world quest that rolls that. But it should be irrelevant next week, hopefully, once people get more corrupt.
Yeah, I think that's hopefully true as well. All right, Tettles, we have a clip of the week. Ooh, I see you've gone with one from my stream here.
Ah, yes, the Dratnos clip of the week.
Oh yes, there are a couple that you could have gone with. There's one where I cheat torpedo off the edge and on the Zoth heroic.
Oh no, really?
Okay, so for those who don't know, who are normal people, there's like water off the edge in a Zoth that you can jump into, and it like instantly kills you. And a Dratnos, I did see that clip. That's a good clip.
Yeah, that was unfortunate. We killed at that pull as well, though. We'd been progressing on it for like, that was our alt run. But I came on my main because my alt was already saved. Okay. Here is this clip then from Tettles.
Dratnos is just toxic, honestly.
This is a pretty toxic clip, although to be fair, these people did murder me with the PvP, the war mode thing where you could become hostile to your own faction. So they did deserve this. I won't.
Oh, this is how you're justifying it.
Yeah. Take the res.
Oh, you can set the track.
Oh, he's looking at us.
They'll take the res.
Yeah, so he's got the Vexiona debuff.
Yeah, I have the debuff from the trash.
The Annihilation or whatever it's called.
No.
Oh, that's from the boss.
Yeah, if you're a tank player, make sure to target your most wild person in your raid group. In this case, it was his raid leader, Jason XE Roth.
Well, Jason was
Tettles
rezzing.
raid. Make sure to target Tettles.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get killed by this.
The other fun thing as a tank is to just stay on top of somebody you want to die when you get the Void Ascendant casting on you, and it just spins around wildly casting on them. All right, let's move on to our Mythic raid preview. So we're going to talk about all the boss mechanics on Mythic, except for, again, Carapace and N'Zoth, we will not be covering. Here is our boss order. So Rathian, Mott, and Skitra are the first three, and then the raid kind of splits into these three wings, as we talked about last week. If you're interested, last week is our Heroic preview. We're not going to be covering mechanics that exist on Heroic unless they dramatically change or become more relevant into Mythic, and we'll not be covering too much. We'll make some predictions about which bosses we expect to be hard and easy, but there's a lot that, it just kind of remains to be seen what tuning they've ended up on. So we'll start off with Rathian. Tettles, what changes about Rathian on Mythic?
Basically, Rathian actually gives you a slow whenever you're moving around, and it stacks up to 50. And once you hit 50, then you do like, I think it's like 300,000 damage per tick. So do not go to 50 stacks under any circumstances. I think the debuff is like 45 seconds long. So just standing still for 45 seconds or like being pre-spread for the circles or something like that is probably the best way of dealing with this, just because, yeah, like taking 300,000 damage is not really a thing that you can do.
Yeah, so this, how exactly does this debuff work? Is it one of the ones that like doesn't refresh duration if you move, or does moving refresh duration too?
Moving refresh duration.
Okay, yeah. So you have to stand still for 45 seconds to make it go away?
Yes, correct.
It seems pretty unlikely. Maybe there's like one point in the fight where DPS could do that, or tank. Probably not tanks, but maybe.
I think it stacks up
DPS.
pretty slow though.
Yeah, so you can just sit at 10 stacks and then move up to 15 stacks and 20 stacks and then eventually reset it before 50.
It's
Intermission.
dispellable, right? It's a magic debuff.
Oh, is it dispellable? Maybe I'm just stupid. I didn't assume it. I didn't think it was.
I heard a while back that you could revival it, which I assume means it's a magic debuff, but I'm never sure that like Tiger Celeste and Blessing of Freedom and Cloak of Shadows, any immunity would probably remove the debuff.
Yeah, no, if you can remove it by like shape-shifting and like Tiger's Lusting and shit, then it's probably not as bad as it sounds.
Yeah, I assume that's the play. Like you just got to plan on when you want to remove your own debuff, and if you can't, if you're like a warrior or something, then have a healer dispel.
Yeah, we assume this boss is not going to take very long for most guilds, right? It looks like this is going to be one of the ones that goes down fairly easily. The other thing that changes here is that crackling shards, the little spires that show up, now leave behind a lava pool. So clearing out the ones in the space of the room that you most need is probably a little bit more important than it was on Heroic. Although, again, we doubt that this will ever really wipe you, unless you're in a really low DPS group that goes through many phases. I don't know what the Enrage Timer is going to look like, though, so that might not even be something that's feasible. All right, next boss fight is Prophet Skitra.
Man, how long do you think this boss is going to be on Mythic? It's already a long boss on normal and heroic.
Skitra?
I think so, right? Isn't there a mandatory?
Yeah,
like,
it always does 4 illusion phases. Yeah, 1 every 20%. So yes, I expect this will be a fairly slog of a fight, like 7-minute or 6-minute or something.
This fight is weird as fuck on Mythic.
Yeah, so Mythic is really cool here. The way this works is that you will have your 2 different debuffs for the entire fight, and each debuff will every single ad that spawns will only be visible to half of the group. So, on Heroic, those walls that come walking across the room are visible to everybody. In Mythic, they will be visible to only half of your players, and you will need to... that group will need to tell the other group where is safe, and so they don't stand and get immediately one-shot by it. And similar to the other ad, the one that you have to run away from and kill, is also like that. And so you're going to have to use world markers probably quite a lot to indicate where things are. It's pretty cool.
The technique for this. Double Guardian Druid.
Okay. And
2
you have
mass
them...
roots.
Yeah,
yes, because they're going to be in separate phases from one another, so you'll always have a mass root for the wall.
Okay, what if my druid is barely level 120 with 1 Heart of Azeroth level or whatever?
Well, he is probably below a Blood Death Knight.
Yeah.
Druids do have both sets of utility for that. I think you'd rather have that utility on your shamans and other druids in the raid, though, so you can gear your tanks for the Zoth and Carapace fights.
Obviously, that.
Yes, as long as you bring a good number of druids and they all have mass entangle, you're hopefully going to get them in different groups, right?
Right.
And if you don't, then you can panic one of the walls and be fine with...
Something I didn't know is if half the wall is on... I didn't know if one side saw half the wall and the other side saw the other half of the wall. Or
I'm not sure either exactly how it works.
Saw the whole wall and the other one didn't.
What if there are 2 walls coming from the different sides, one for each group to see?
That's what I was saying.
Okay, yeah, I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's why I was I wasn't 100% sure on how exactly it worked. That's one of those things that I have to see in person. But from how it was described, there's definitely some shit with the wall. There's definitely some shit with the ads, and only one group can kill the Psyche ad as well.
Do you guys remember Mr. Sazine from Tomb? I think this boss is going to be very similar to that in terms of movement, where you just even though half the raid can't see the wall, you just follow the leader and move tightly as a group, right?
Yeah, you just stay together so you don't get hit by the by anything.
I actually like this fight. I think this is gonna be interesting on Mythic.
Yeah, I think for a second or third boss, it's hitting a pretty good mark. All right,
better than Blackwater.
Yeah, and again, the strategy we like for this is the 2 tanks. One of them puts a world marker in front of all the Skitras they see, and the other one calls out which one they see a Skitra in front of.
Well, that's gonna be different on Mythic because only one group can even see the ads. Or no, only one group can hit the ads. Only one group can hit the ads. Not one group can see the ads. Only one of the groups can hit the ads.
I'm talking about the other, the heroic mechanic reminder. Yeah,
the illusions. Only one group I think can hit them.
I think that that mechanic is carried over from heroic the same way, but we'll see. Yeah, we'll see.
Yes, we'll see. Holy shit.
Otherwise, that just randomly is a lot easier then, because...
Yeah, I don't know how you'd identify it if only half the group...
Only one group can hit it.
But the other group can see it? Okay, interesting.
Oh, they can still see it, okay.
So what's the other group doing? Just AFK?
Oh, fucking AFK.
Alright, anyways, next boss on the list is Mott. Mott now has a curse, the famous curse of Mott Mythic that you may have heard of from PTR. It's a 24-second duration curse that gets cast periodically on the entire raid, and if the curse expires, the players die. They just literally die. This is interesting, and it basically requires 7 total curse dispels to have each of them able to dispel 3 times in a 24-second window. So our options for that are druids, shaman, and mages. That is a lot of class stacking required for a third boss of a raid. Tettles, what do you think about this mechanic?
I think it's weird that it's on every single player. Most of the time, you'll have stuff like this, and it'll be similar to what was it, Conclave?
Yeah.
What was that? What was that boss in Battle Desarlor that had was it Conclave? I don't remember the exact name of it. It had all the fucking like the jungle boss, whatever it was in Battle Desarlor. But like that one had Curse Dispels. Curse Dispels are not exactly the most common thing. I guess it's nice that it's also on a mage and a druid because those are two of the more popular classes. But that is a lot of dispels that are required.
So okay, are the mechanics in the fight? Do they interact with the curse at all, Tettles? Do you know if like standing in a void zone means you won't die on expiration?
I have absolutely no idea. Actually.
Okay, if that's true,
cool,
yeah.
Works.
If that's true, then that makes a lot more sense because otherwise
it's
pretty
stacked up,
stupid.
right? It blows up in an AOE around you. I think that's what I heard.
Whenever you dispel it, whenever you dispel it, then it does like incidental damage. It's either to the player or to the whole raid. I don't remember exactly.
Okay, so
you gotta stagger them no matter what.
Either also, way, you'd have to be careful about like dipping into void zones away from where anybody else is. Yeah.
I think the tanks could run Null Barrier Major and remove it themselves, if I'm not mistaken. I'm sure there's a bunch of other ways to remove it, like immunities, staggering in there as well. There's a lot of options. Sounds like I actually really like this idea.
Yeah, so you'll still have to be careful because you can't just you can't all be dipping into the same void zone because then everybody who's outside the void zone will be getting hit by that AOE every time somebody touches it. So that'll be careful. So that'll be something you have to be careful of. But very cool, very cool. Much better than literally requiring 7 of those classes. Although I imagine that comp is still like I imagine that the more curse spells you have in the comp, the better because then you can just have some people dispelling. And it's easier to then get a good spread.
That's a good point.
The next boss we're going to talk about is the one that we think is the least. This will probably be the easiest boss we think of the remaining ones. Hive Mind. Hive Mind has no mythic mechanics at all. Basically, everything that you see in Hive Mind Mythic has already happened on Heroic. They are just enhanced. So. The Banelings are bigger. If you don't kick, you die more. Stuff heals more, or stuff deals more damage. And one notable thing is that the ads, when they drop below 20%, they will start healing themselves pretty rapidly. So you can't just like slow AoE everything. You have to individually target or do very high burst AoE as stuff approaches 20%. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to out damage that heal. But
you guys grip those things in when they get low and make sure the raid cleaves them down.
Yep.
Yeah, I think in general, making sure that you're stacked up in melee and then like having a couple demon hunters with Iris or Fel Barrage or what the fuck ever, just instantly kill them once they drop below 20% health is probably your best bet. And just like slow cleaving them the whole entire time and then having basically the rest of your raid just focusing on the bosses or killing the darters.
I suspect that like individually targeting one mob out of 10 at a time is not going to be the move. So yeah, just burst AoE at the end is the play.
Yeah. It's always worth noting on bosses like that where the ads need to die and they're hard to kill when they get low, is that whenever something is like inside the hitbox of the main target, they're going to take so much more damage than they are like 5 yards away from the main target and then like 10 yards away from the target. A lot of cleave damage is very tiny, but gets much more significant the closer the mobs are together.
All right, let's move on to Xanesh, Dark Inquisitor Xanesh. So, Dark Inquisitor Xanesh is a little bit different on Mythic. You know how the soccer balls spawn from a goal that is exactly opposite them on the room? Well, on Mythic, they will instead spawn close to each other, but with a wall in between. So you will have to soccer them all around the room, around 3 out of 4 edges of the square instead of 2 out of 4. And if you mess this up even once, you wipe on Mythic. On Heroic, you have you can mess up one time and still kill the boss. So the soccer part is harder, and that's pretty much all. Oh, and okay. Also, every time you kick the ball, right, an ad spawns.
Yes.
Yeah. So that is.
So basically, whenever you kick the ball and ad spawns, the ad will do like a 3-second cast, and if he completes the cast, then we'll do a fear that will fear your whole entire raid group and do a decent amount of damage.
Yeah. So that will
be
pretty cool.
Does not have a bunch of health, but the fear cast is kickable. So minimizing your amount of kicks on the orb is quite advantageous, as like splitting a bunch of damage or like having to like panic range kick far side adds whenever like the dance is going on or anything else would definitely be in your best interest.
So your people need to be
Seems pretty
good
fun.
at soccer, yeah.
I think the raid, you probably want to pull the boss around behind the ball as a group so that you can stack the boss on the ad and it just gets cleaved down. I'm assuming
Yeah.
that's probably going to be
The boss follows the ball and you
That makes
kill
the
the
most
ad each
sense.
time. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Beyond that, this will just be an execution fight. It'll just matter how good your soccer players are.
So
So
you better hope you have good healers, I guess, right? Because you're going to be sending most of the time you're going to be sending healers or tanks going down.
Well,
'Cause-
you can each only go once, I think. So you'll
yeah, exactly.
play different sets through.
But like your healers and tanks are going to be. I would assume you rotate all healers and all tanks through at least once, and then you're going to have other, just like DPS, just filling in the extra slots. You also, so on normal you can fail the soccer twice. On heroic you can fail it once. On mythic you cannot fail it at all.
Yes.
Otherwise you just instantly whip.
right.
Yeah.
It's also worth noting when you're down there, you do 99% less damage to the boss. So that's one of the reasons why healers are really good to go down because I think they can still do full healing, right?
Yeah.
While they're in the soccer ball tentacle thing.
Yeah, and then a good comment from chat as well that we've noticed too is that this is definitely something you can solo tank. As long as you reset the stacks of the Abyssal Strike, it's not going to be too lethal. The Abyssal Strike itself doesn't do too much damage as long as you don't have a lot of stacks. So just having a DH take one or somebody taunt one every once in a while, that's a very good option for this fight. Okay, one drawback of that is that if you have two tanks, you get two tanks that can go do soccer ball kicking. If you have one tank, that person probably can't do soccer ball kicking. But it's still probably worth to drop the tank for DPS.
It's definitely worth to drop the tank for a DPS, but not having them in on the fight like reduces the amount of gear that they're going to be getting.
Yeah, so that if your theory is that this is like World First Guilds, for instance, will not be playing optimal comps for most of these bosses. They'll be playing comps based on who they want to gear, right? Based on who needs gear from these.
You'd definitely rather have more DPS in just to be able to gear more DPS. But like, this is
like in my instance, my guild, I would just play arms or fury for that boss and let nerf solo tank it. For example,
and if you could get away with that, that's better. But like,
yeah, I mean, it's also some of the bosses just are weird loot tables in this raid. Some bosses have like one belt and no other items for many specs. It's bizarre. So
I don't understand what is going on with the loot table instances. Why are trinkets all so dog shit? And like, why is that stuff like that where it's like, yeah, so I have one off piece available from this boss. And you're just like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Speaking of trinkets, the trinket off of Wrathion, the very first boss that gives you a nice haste buff, but also gives you wings and slow fall random. That trinket is so troll in dungeons. I'll just
slow fall. Yeah, you jump and
jumping, and I'll randomly get slow fall, and I'll go to Narnia across the map.
You know what else gives you wings, Trell?
Red Bull,
and they're a sponsor of the
Complexity Limit Race the World First at the GameStop Performance Center.
Let's fucking get it.
All right. Anyways. Up next we have Shadhar. Shadhar is the boss gets a hungry debuff every 5 seconds. And if it ever gets to 10 stacks, the boss will deal 250% increased damage. So you need to feed him little morsels that spawn from the miasma blob that spawns on players. And that's kind of all there is to him, right? You only have to feed him, yeah.
Miasma blob also roots instantly whenever it fixates a player. I don't know how the fuck you're supposed to deal with that, I'll be honest. Like, whenever I hear that, I'm just like, is the root dispellable? I assume it's not, just by the way it's like worded, is that it's just like not this dispellable root, especially since I didn't test Mythic Shadhar. But like, as soon as you get fixated by the miasma blob, you're rooted in place, meaning your whole entire group has to probably get away from you. And then the morsel spawns, and the one player is able to pick up the morsel, go feed the dog, but then you get a pretty hefty dot on you for...
Yeah, it's like a 3-minute dot or something, right? Or is it only a 3-minute unable to feed him?
It's 3 minutes unable to feed him. The dot's like 45 seconds or something.
Okay. Yes.
I don't know if the dot's like immutable either. Like there's like a lot of stuff that I just don't know a ton about. That's just like, as soon as I see this fight, we'll know significantly more. As it currently stands, this is how the mechanic works.
This looks like if there's a difficulty on this fight, it will just be a DPS check type difficulty. Like this one could be tuned fairly high, but not probably one where the mechanic itself is too difficult.
Okay, so apparently during
Right.
PTR there was some like weird shit with the root. You were able to Tiger's Lust it or Fell Rush during it, which is definitely not intended. Highly
Yeah.
expect that to be changed, and you're probably not going to be able to like shapeshift or move or anything out of the root. You're probably just stuck there.
Either way, we love Havoc Demanders on this fight, right? That's just a perfect class for holding this dot and zipping around and doing the feeding, all that kind of stuff.
Or if you just cloak off the dot, Rogue.
Yeah, Rogue would be good too then if that plays. I suspect this will be something like they do this kind of immune mechanic recently where you can immune the damage but not remove the debuff. My guess would be that would be where it lands, but we'll see. We'll see exactly how it behaves.
Because players got pretty degenerate all through Legion. We're just like,
oh yeah, we immuned everything.
can I immune that?
Yeah.
Is that a thing? Yo. Okay, so Ice Block doesn't work. Check Turtle.
and then can I pre-immune it? Yeah, and you
yeah. Can I pre-cloak that shit? Feint?
Yeah, there were lots of stuff like that in Legion.
I mean, Feint. Yeah, Feint. I can't believe that Feint is just an immunity on a 15-second cooldown. It's so good.
Somebody say Fallen Avatar. My rogues are just standing in melee.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, I'm so good at soaking now at 20% avoidance. That's my specialty.
Nice. Yeah, very corrupted. Very cool.
Very funky fresh.
All right, let's cover the last not wing end boss now. Drestagath. So Drestagath has this weird mechanic where the 4 different types of tentacle do their 100 energy ability as soon as any adds of the same type die now. Which means that you kind of have this little hectic moment when you kill adds. And I think if you can kill 2 tentacles of the same type at the same time, that'll be good too. You'll minimize the amount of 100 energy abilities going out. Very much just a fight for multi-daughters, especially multi-daughter. Like, it might be good for Elemental Shaman too, because you can, funnel out some Flame Shocks and then get your debuff and then nuke the boss. So that could be a pretty good class for here, but mostly this just looks like a Shadow Priest Heaven, Affliction Lock Heaven.
Yeah. So you're definitely like not getting behind on the tentacles is by far the most important point, and then just having enough melees that you can kill the large tentacle with the smoke bomb around it, just enough to where that will be able to be taken care of, and then Okay, so if the fight is tuned very tight, then you let all of your multi-daughters grab the purple circles that give you the debuff to allow you to target the boss, and they just keep the boss dotted up the whole entire time, and you just rot the boss until you can like full commit with Bloodlust. Or you give it to like your melee DPS and they like full commit onto the boss while their large tentacle isn't up. So it's hard to
say. That one's pretty.
It's hard to say based on tuning. And that's all it comes down to is like tuning and like how much spread cleave you need versus like damage to the boss itself.
Right. Yeah. It'll just depend on those numbers.
They don't tune bosses like this in this point of the instance. So to the point where you have to like hard class stack a bunch of like.
I mean, I expect that
DPS
what'll
with
happen
split
is
cleave.
if you bring a bunch of multi-daughters, it'll be very easy, and if you don't, it should still be doable, right?
Yes, that's about what I expect. I suspect it will be like the Stormwall Blockade effect, whereas if you field the correct comp, the boss instantly dies. If you don't, the boss is a little bit more challenging, but still doable.
Yeah. Or like, I guess not as bad as Zool, where if you bring 5 sub-rogues, it's just free, and if you bring 0, it's a legitimate fight with a bunch of mechanics.
Yes, correct. I was more referring to Stormwall Blockade because it was a multi-daughters, not like fucking, oh yeah, bro, I got 5 sub-rogues.
Or 10, yeah.
Or 10.
All right. Vexiona now, we're going to cover these wing end bosses. So Vexiona requires you to have killed Inquisitor Xanesh. And she has a new ad on her fight. It's basically the Siege of Borealis Raider. Trell, our favorite mob from Siege of Borealis, right? That we love to pull. This one is called the Iron-Willed Enforcer, and it'll just yoink 3 players into melee range out of your raid, and then do an AoE stun that they need to get out of. It's like there's a trash mob that does the same thing before Vexiona from Heroic as well.
Is there? I did not know.
Yeah.
People love just getting randomly gripped. It's so fun.
So that'll be something you'll have to be careful of, depending on where you're tanking it. There's a lot of positioning matters here, so getting gripped through bad stuff can be a possibility if your positioning is bad, but I suspect the strategy on this fight is just going to be to very carefully start at the edges of the room and pollute like one side of the room with pools, and then leave the other side safe for the final phase.
Oh, something that I forgot to write down about the Iron-Willed Enforcer. He's immune to CC.
Right. Yeah, he's a lieutenant or whatever.
Yeah, so I would highly recommend probably like nuking him down, because whenever he yanks the 3 players in, he does like a Steel Tempest style cast from like the first boss of Barrows, where he does like a ground effect, and if it catches you in it, I think it does like 1,000,000 damage. So basically, you're just instantly dead.
The Halls of Valor mechanic that's active on this fight from the first boss of Halls of Valor where the dragons go down the lanes.
Heimdall, exactly.
Yeah, the Heimdall mechanic is Vexiona's mechanic, and that is present in all phases in Mythic as well. Vexiona's Shadow will cast that even when Vexiona is on the ground. So
does the Shadow of Vexiona still work the exact same way as the normal Vexiona thing, where it targets like the biggest clump of targets?
I think that it aims at the lane with the most players.
So
but
you're going to want a balance of players where you want, like, you probably put like all of your healers and your melee DPS in melee, and then you field as many ranges as you possibly can, and then you just like set them on the outside. I initially thought that this was going to be like a melee heavy fight though.
Yeah, it's fine if you're a bunch of melee, right? You have time to dodge that thing and move the boss. You just one side of the room is the tank side where the frontals get aimed, and the other side is the melee side, and you just kind of move up and down, staying on those sides.
Something that I'm going to have to test myself is like that Iron Will Enforcer. All like grips are really shitty grips, and you can just like wild charge out of them or disengage out of them. I highly suspect I'll be able to just like
disengage as soon as you get targeted.
Yeah, true.
All right, so we think that this is probably going to be the easiest of the 3 wing end bosses. We think Ra-Den and Il'gynoth are more likely to be real walls. At least I do. I don't think that any of the bosses before these are likely to really be walls for World First progression. For later guilds, I could see maybe Xanesh being a tough one to execute well, depending on, like, you need all your players to play good soccer, and that can be hard. But I think that most of the difficulty in this raid is heavily weighted towards Ra-Den, Il'gynoth, Carapace, and N'Zoth itself. Let's talk a little bit about Ra-Den next. Ra-Den in Mythic has a 3rd orb, in addition to the Vita and the Void ones, right, Tettles?
Yes. So basically there's a 3rd orb, and I did not write down what the name of the orb is. However, it's like a fire style orb, and basically whenever it hits the boss, it will cast missiles at every player's feet, dealing a pretty significant amount of damage. Basically, you die if you get hit by them. So you have to like dodge out of the missiles if it hits the boss, and then it spawns a Night Terror ad, which casts this thing called Dread Inferno, which think of like the tornadoes from Radiance of Ashara, except it's like hard fixated onto a player. And
it's like the tornadoes from the first boss room in King's Rest, right? The ones that are just heat seeking and chase you from the warriors in King's Rest first room.
This one like fixates, so it's a little bit different.
Right, that's how the ones in King's Rest work, I'm pretty sure.
Oh, okay, never mind. The ones in KR...
It almost feels like they fixate.
They spawn in front of the...
I thought the ones in KRs... Yeah, I thought those were just circular.
No, they definitely fixate me, man. That's how I always get hit. It's definitely a fixate.
Yeah, they fixate Dratnos only, yeah.
Yeah. His Harwin's fixate, kind of.
On initial cast, they fixate, yeah, and then they go into a circle pattern.
Okay, but those don't fixate you, Dratnos?
No, I can dodge those ones. Come on, Tettles, don't be ridiculous. But yeah, okay, so you basically have to dodge the tornado that is fixating people. And that is... Okay, then there's the Unstable Nightmare mechanic as well on Mythic.
Unstable Nightmare is a debuff that will go out on random players, and it has 5 stacks, and then it explodes, and anybody within a 15-yard radius to the player, I think they just die. So you have to get like out of your rig with it, and then once that once the explosion goes off, I think it's after like 6 seconds, then the debuff goes to the nearest target, and then you lose 1 stack.
Yeah, so it's like the Vita one that zaps between the farthest targets, but it's between closest targets, and you need to get away from them. It's interesting, especially when the Vita is going on at the same time. This will be pretty hectic. I could see the Vita jumping to the wrong person, depending on how you handle this nightmare. I don't know if those mechanics are going to overlap, but I suspect that they will.
Wait, no. I think this is only during the...
Oh, only when you've killed the fire orb?
Yeah, I think this is... I think that may be from the ad. I think the Unstable Nightmare... Actually, no.
I thought the way it works is that you get... I thought the way it works is you get 2 ads as well, like whichever sides you
Oh shit, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm not
that's,
sure.
that's definitely right.
Man, there's a lot of new stuff in this
Yeah,
mechanic.
it depends on exactly how the orbs work. Like if you're gonna get 2 ads and 2 of the orb mechanics, or 1, that'll matter. We'll have to see exactly what the overlaps are like. The other final new mechanic on Raw Den is called Corrupted Existence. It's a 30-second debuff on 3 targets. It instantly deals damage to the players, but then it also increases their max health. So it basically just makes their health bar at 50% or whatever. And then if they ever get topped while they have that debuff, they die. They're gone. So you have to be very careful to not do too much like massive, like not hit revival or whatever when this is out. The players affected, if they're like warlocks, just throw on Burning Rush. Take some avoidable damage if it's not going to kill you. I don't know. Just keep yourself from getting to 100% health.
What if there's are there any like healing absorb trinkets in this new raid, like there was in Crucible Storm?
Talking about like Voidstone.
Yeah, like Voidstone would be really good for that, but obviously you're not going to wear Voidstones if it's not super important.
Just put Artifice Major on.
Artifice Major only covers like 8 seconds, right? On them. It could be good if they get close to full though. Yeah.
It's such a weird mechanic though. It's just like don't top the player otherwise they die. I'm like
30 seconds is a long time.
30
like,
seconds is a long. Yes.
All passive healing for 30 seconds.
You have more max health, right? So I would assume you just like get out of the raid.
Yeah, get away from the AoE healing. I don't know. Definitely some ways to damage yourself would be nice as a safety net. Yeah.
Don't attack the boss if you have a leech.
Yeah.
You roll leech as an outlaw rogue, just go AFK.
All right, and then the final boss that we are going to cover today is Il'gynoth. Il'gynoth looks like it'll be a complicated execution fight. Clicking off your hots as well on Raw Den will be a good thing if you need to. So maybe macros for doing that will be useful to have. All right, so Il'gynoth. We have 2 new mechanics on Mythic, Clotted Corruption and Cursed Blood. Tettles, what does Cursed Blood do?
So Cursed Blood is like it's like a circular debuff that will like spread. It'll like expand and contract, and it is dispellable. And whenever it's dispelled, it'll explode, dealing damage based on its size. But if it gets to like the maximum size, then it will just like explode automatically, doing I don't know how much damage it actually was, but it didn't like seem like the most insane amount of damage whenever it was at max size. However, I bet if you got comboed all at once, it would be pretty catastrophic.
Okay. So that's just a mechanic to manage. And then Clotted Corruption is the other new mechanic on Mythic. They're ads that spawn during the organ phase, so when you're hitting the organs. And they charge forward, dealing damage to any one hit, and absorbing any bloods that it hits as well. So it gets bigger and it does more damage if it absorbs any bloods. So a common strategy that was kind of suggested on PTR and from heroic testing on this was mass shooting the bloods and just never killing them, just leaving them mass shooted at the sides of the room. That is not going to be viable if Clotted Corruptions are going to charge those and eat them all up. That will be very bad. So you need to be very careful of the bloods there, and it probably means that you're just going to have to kill bloods pretty aggressively to make sure that the Clotted Corruption does not stun them, or to get them. And you can always get the bloods out of the way with grips or whatever if the Clotted Corruption is going to charge at them.
What does the Clotted Corruption do? Is it just tank damage or is it something else?
So whenever he absorbs blood, he actually gains like 250% increased damage, and I don't think it's health. I think it's just damage.
Okay. So yeah, maybe survivable. Then it may be possible to let it absorb some, but I think that's going to be bad to have happen.
Yeah, I don't know. If it's like a slow big ad, maybe you could just kite it around the boss as a tank. I don't know.
Maybe
some crazy.
It's definitely not slowable.
Okay.
So like you have to actually do the mechanic. This is I think they removed the ability to be able to like hard cheese Il'gynoth pretty heavily with the I think they tested this boss like 3 or 4 times. Like they tested this boss over and over again. So this is a very thoroughly tested boss because originally people were just like trolling with mass root, just like rooting the ads the whole entire time, and they were like, "This is the dumbest shit of all time."
So this is our summary of the Mythic mechanics of the first 10 bosses in Ny'alotha.
So something I actually forgot about Raw Den is I actually knew about this, but I just didn't think about it. People are like tanking the boss like right on top of where the first orb, like one of the orbs that you want to eat will spawn, so that Rodden will instantly absorb that orb. Then you'll kill one of the far side orbs, or like you'll move the boss away to where you have more time to where the orbs won't just like contact with the boss, so you can actually deal with one of the ads a little bit quicker.
Okay.
And
Yeah, you just want to start that process as fast as possible.
You want to start the process early, because a higher uptime with 2 ads at once is not
right. You want to stagger when you have the ads active. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Very cool. Okay,
I'm super excited to see what our friends in Limit and Method decide to do on some of these bosses. Like some of these mechanics, I bet there's a cool way to deal with them. Like I wish there was a way to just like kite that big ad around Il'gynoth permanently as a brewmaster or something. Just the speed bonuses. That'd be pretty fun.
Oh, so hear me out. You just do the exact same thing that people did during Star Augur, and you just transcend and you take the ad out of the room and you don't reset the boss because it's broken, and then you just get world third because of it.
And then you get banned, yeah.
And then your whole entire raid gets banned for a week, and then
that doesn't seem like it's a profitable strategy. I'm not sure that's what you want to do.
I don't know, man. That guild did get world third Star Augur.
What if you just mass root all the bloods together, and then you just, as soon as the Clouded Corruption charges them, you just mass grip them away, and then
they become CC immune at some point.
The bloods do? Okay.
I think they have like a PvP deal.
Okay.
That makes sense. Yeah, actually, I knew those things DR'd slows. Yeah. Okay. So those are the first 10 bosses. We are not going to cover Carapace or N'alotha this episode. When we get back, we will talk about what happened with those fights and what to expect as you go to progress on them. But we think that everybody listening to this podcast will probably not be on Carapace by the time we return. How do
you feel about Carapace or N'alotha, like on Heroic so far?
I loved Carapace on Heroic. I thought that was a really cool fight. And N'alotha on Heroic, it wasn't too great, but I don't really care about the heroic difficulties of fights too much. Like Unot Heroic, for instance, was something that was very boring for me, and Unot Mythic was, I think, one of the best end bosses they've ever made. So, you know, I think that anybody who is killing heroic bosses week 1, it's not really content that's aimed at you, right? It would be like saying the LFR fight is boring. You know, it's not really for us. So that's
Carapace is a cool fight though.
At the same time, I actually do like how they're removing the first phase of N'alotha from the Mythic encounter.
It's like Gul'dan, right? That's a good sign for a Mythic fight, is when they have a boring phase 1 that goes away on Mythic difficulty, and you just have to deal with it during the phases instead. That's perfect.
Ashara, significantly better fight if they don't have that phase 1.
Absolutely, yeah. If Ashara, you can just fight her, and the 2 ads are with her on the first phase, or at the start somehow, you know, that would be better. So love that decision about Mythic. Mythic N'alotha, we don't know what the last phase is yet. There's a sub 50% phase that we just don't know what is like at all. So basically, Heroic Phase 1 doesn't exist. Heroic Phase 2 is Mythic Phase 1. Heroic Phase 3 is Mythic Phase 2. And there's a Mythic Phase 3 that has no mechanics in the Dungeon Journal and will be entirely new to us. So be sure to tune into the Race for World first to find out. Twitch.tv/complexity, by the way. And Carapace, I think, will be a big wall. Absolutely, I think Carapace is going to be a fantastic fight to watch, and will last several days. I hope. I think that most of the bosses before Carapace will probably be going down in the first couple days of the raid for the World First guilds. Although I could see Rodden or Il'gynoth taking a while. I don't think many of the I don't think Rodden. I think bosses besides Rodden, Il'gynoth, maybe Vexiona will probably not take too long for World First guilds.
So typically during World First times, especially with these like long ass raids, like you'll get like the first 9, 10, 11, like they even kill through Agrimar on the first day.
Yeah, they didn't kill Agrimar day 1, did they? They just killed up to Agrimar, right? Or did they actually get Agrimar day 1?
I think they got Agrimar day 2.
Yeah,
I think they did not kill him day 1 at least.
Yeah, definitely killing the first, like killing Coven and Varimathras on day 1 was that was pretty easy to do, even just the first couple days for a lot of guilds. Those bosses.
Exactly. So the first, like, most of the time, if you have appropriate gear and you have appropriate prep, the wing bosses, like even the Vexionas and shit, are like fairly easy. If there's anything that will stop guilds, it will typically be like a damage check wall.
Yeah, so damage check could be Shadhar, or it could be one of the wing bosses. Mechanics checks that will hold up guilds that are not world first could be the soccer boss, could be Drestagath based on your comp. But those we don't expect to hold back world first guilds at all.
I would agree with that. So basically, the only thing that like holds up world's first guilds out of the first wing are typically just like out of the wing bosses are typically just damage checks, and that's because either they'll be not doable or they'll require you to have to play a certain way that it's just like this is not exactly the most reasonable shit. Think about Fed to Devourer in that regard, because they're not going to put a wing boss. So the last time they did this was like Gorfiend, where like Gorfiend was actually probably the second hardest boss of Hellfire Citadel, and they put him as like the sixth boss of the instance. They have not done that since. They decided that that was not a good strategy to implement, and so instead that they put like far more challenging bosses towards the end.
Yeah, I think that's I think it's a good way. I think it's good when the difficulty goes up over the course of the dungeon for the most part.
Yeah.
That's a good way for the raid design to work. All right, we'll return next time we'll cover what happened on the race for world first, and we'll start then talking about awakened keys and everything as we transition to the rest of the patch. But that is our preview for Ny'alotha Mythic. Let's quickly cover some questions and answers. We do have one that I think is interesting, that is from King Zanam in Twitch chat, who asks, suspect any class nerfs before Mythic? Fire mages, DHs? Any of you guys foresee any nerfs coming to any classes? For the record,
Honestly, I don't think so. I think they're only going to nerf corruption, if anything. They have so much to do on balance that they're probably going to only hit the most challenging area, which is currently corruption effects, in my opinion. But I don't know. What do you think, Tom?
I think that's pretty fair. I don't think anything is like outlierly like overtuned or undertuned. Maybe they buff up Frost Mage and Sub Rogue a little bit, but I significantly doubt they're even going to touch anything class balance wise. I think Trell is spot on that they're just going to hit corruption.
yeah, I could see some specs here getting hit. I don't think Havoc is likely to get touched. I think Fire is maybe outlying a little bit.
Well, Fire Mage is just like an out. Yeah, their burst damage.
I mean, obviously,
like Fire's overall is very high, and their damage profile is very favorable for a lot of fights. And
for everything, yeah.
Yeah, so I think that like they have a good total number. Like that Fire is balanced when they're doing a little bit less overall, and their damage is better, burstier and stuff than the other specs. So
I mean, it's just how Ignite Cleave is also just one of the most stupid mechanics possible too.
Yeah. We'll see what happens with those. I think that corruption changes are probably not likely anymore either. I think that the set of changes they made was the last set of changes they'll be making on Thursday. I think that anything except for like a tweak on some class balance, I don't think we'll see more corruption changes. Basically, I think that the item level scaling on Infinite Stars and Twisted Appendage and Gushing Wound will be the last one there.
Yeah, I think realistically, you're probably right. They just don't have the resources to pay attention to a lot of this stuff these days. It seems like the QA of this patch has been a little rough. You can tell they're just hanging in there, trying to balance what
they're doing their best. They're doing their best.
I think they're probably all ending Shadowlands and just like
Oh, yeah.
they just like ship the fucking patch, right? And it's
fine by me. If that makes Shadowlands come out faster and or better, I'm all about it. Get me out of here.
Better. I would prefer Shadowlands come out faster and better.
Yeah, I'll take either though at this point.
Okay, so have you guys had this issue where the whole entire raid, like anytime that there's more than like 20 entities pulled, your whole entire raid just like you get the most insane input lag possible?
Yes.
Do you have the stun tracker on nameplates? The NPC DR stun tracker?
But even then, okay, so yeah, the NPC stun tracker, like the little green orb thing, that's like mega broken this patch and will lag you the fuck out. So I would recommend disabling that. That's what's like giving you major frame drops probably. What I was referring to is I will even have that off, and also turning off your nameplates will help a little bit too. But even then, on something like Carapace, I'll turn off my nameplates. I won't even be lagging like frame-wise, but I will just have the most insane input lag. And I can't tell if it's because I'm in a 30-man like group, or if just this patch is just terrible.
I have not had that issue myself. Yeah,
I didn't actually lag on the third phase of Carapace, but a lot of people did, and I told everyone to like keybind that before we did it. And I'm glad I had that keybind because it actually helped me out in Temple Run yesterday, where we had 1 million Temple conscripts in one. I just turned off my nameplates and I was fine.
But yeah, the stun DR tracker, big deal. Turn that shit off. That will help you with frame drops. I was more referring to just like
input lag. Yeah, I have not had input lag issues except for when the assault flips midway through the week. That zone gets so crowded immediately before and after that
Yes.
assault flip. Do not go
So
there.
wait.
It's so busy.
How many guys were you playing with? Because we had 30 people in our heroic runs. Did you guys have 30 as well, Dratnos?
For
30,
yeah, we did 30 for our first heroic, and then we did a all run yesterday with like 20, and it was also
I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe
not
we're
bad.
just fucking unlucky because like our whole entire. We also do have one of those green-red classes. One of those green death knights who may be just like disconnecting all of us with all of his wounds.
yeah, it could actually be just unholy effects, or yeah, did you have a mage playing living bomb or something?
I don't know, but we had a couple Starfalling Minkins and a fucking.
There's no way to know what Starfall will do to your computer. There's no way anybody tested that on PTR. So
we're playing Stellar Drift, maximum Starfall damage.
Smart. All right, our final question comes from It's Bananas 01. Trell, do you think they're going to buff the end cinematic?
Oh man, I sure hope so.
Do you think
That
like
was a
I
letdown.
guess the serious version of this question is: do you guys think there's a chance of a mythic cinematic? A mythic cinematic only?
Well, probably.
I would like there to be, but I don't think
Well,
so.
there's a mythic phase.
Yeah, so it could look
so odds
different
of
at
there
the
being
end,
a
right?
mythic cinematic is not. I would say not low.
And yeah, it's the end boss of the expansion. It would be cool. I don't know. The one thing I do know is that twitch.tv/complexity is where you'll be able to tune in to hopefully see that first, hopefully. So, you know, do that.
Say hopefully again
True.
for me.
To probably see that first, maybe. So that's where Tettles and I will be for the next 2 weeks. No Titanforge for 2 weeks either.
I'll be in Kansas.
Yeah, Trell is we're Tettles and I are going to where Trell lives, and Trell is quickly getting away from us. He's like, oh, that's far too close. Get me out of
Alright,
here.
so for those of you who don't know, Dratnos just does not wear deodorant, and his stench will stink up a whole fucking city.
Yeah, it's how I keep people away from me so that I can maintain my gamer hours. I got to
Gamer hours. That's a good point. Yeah.
I got Tettles the drink. Love it. All right, that's gonna be all for us this week, though. Bye, everybody. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Bye.